Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dan Excelsior, the Mostly Marvel podcast. This is episode 124, coming at you on February 16th. This week's show, we are talking about Madam Web. Madam Web came out this past Valentine's Day on the 14th.
Did you say Valentine's?
Valentine's? Is it Tines?
Yes, it's Times.
Times?
Yes, Saint Valentine.
Oh, I mean, I went to speech classes as a child. I didn't expect to be attacked on the show.
Attacked. I literally just asked you what you said. You're making an attack.
I feel attacked. I'm your host, Ricky. With us, as always, is Dennis. No guest this week, but we have each other.
I think there's a very obvious reason why there's no guest this week. This movie came out like Ricky said on Valentine's Day, and we're recording the following day afterwards. You may be listening to this later, but we just didn't really want to force somebody to go watch this movie and then come here immediately afterwards and talk. But we are always willing to take that bullet for you guys, and so
we're down to clown.
Yeah, we're down to clown. We're always going to watch
we sacrifice our time, our personal relationships.
We saw this movie on Valentine's Day.
Yes. That's how much we love you guys.
Yeah. I will say I did shout out to Ian, our lovely patron. He did actually watch this movie with me. He made it quite bearable because I had somebody to lean over and whisper to and make fun of stuff throughout the movie. He would have loved to have been on this episode tonight, but he is actually mid flight, so it wasn't going to happen. But
if you're a patron, Dennis might take you to a movie.
That's true. It could happen. Pretty much only if you're local and I know you and we hang out normally. But yes, yeah, there's always
hole in the popcorn guaranteed.
There's always a chance. Oh, we definitely bought the Dune popcorn buckets for.
I saw it. I really wanted to buy it. I wanted to buy it so bad. Oh,
that's
man.
Funny. That's funny. But yeah, no, we're going to be talking about that movie later in this episode. If you're familiar with our show, we like to banter for a bit, talk about whatever we've been nerding out on this week. Then we're going to eventually move right into the news, which I believe there is a lot of this week for Marvel news and maybe just superhero news in general. And then once we've had our fair share of that, we will pivot finally into our spotlight of the evening, which is Madam Web, as Ricky said.
I mean, I kind of just want to get in the news. I mean, in terms of stuff I've been watching, I did take your recommendation. I'm one episode away from finishing Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That show's amazing.
It is, right? It's so good.
It's like I think it's just the two of them, like the chemistry between them and it really reminds me honestly a lot of Master of None in terms of the writing.
Show. It reminds me of Atlanta in terms of the writing, but I get you. Master of None's a well-written show too, so yeah, I'm not gonna knock it.
The interpersonal stuff that they get into, the deeper relation drama and relation conversations are just fantastic. And I also appreciate that I appreciate it's not Mission Impossible or James Bond in terms of action. It's very like the missions are almost like boring, if that makes sense. Like that's not the exciting part of the show.
They're the job, right? They're just the job.
Yeah. It's a situation that comes from the missions.
Yeah, it's like I said, they reframed the whole show to be from the very real point of view of capitalism, right? And like that's the entire motivation behind this. It's not like they want to kill people, but it's just like, hey, it's a job, it pays well. You know what I mean? Like so.
Yeah.
And it reframes the whole like the sexiness of the original movie is kind of out the window, right? And it's like instead this is like a real relationship story that we're watching unfold. Like they go through all the relationship drama that every relationship goes through. It's just they've got extra drama because, you know, of the way it started. But yeah,
season 1 with guns.
I'm glad you like that show. I'm very happy. I took your recommendation and finally actually watched a little bit of Tacoma FD.
This was fun.
It's fun.
Silly.
Yeah, it's funny enough. Like, my wife got invested. She jumped in like on the 3rd episode when the daughter Lucy joined the team, and she happened to jump in at a very good episode. I think that's a much stronger episode than the ones before it. And then every episode after that, she just got stuck into the soap opera characters, and they're really adorable. And I love Eugene Cordero in everything he's in, and so I was really happy to have.
It was great. You need your like low stakes comedy drip, right? It's not. I wouldn't say it's not over the top, but it's not like it's not super raunchy. It's not super safe. It's just a nice little. It's your live action Bob's Burger episode.
Yeah. No, it actually felt really delicious. Like to go in on your metaphor. It felt really delicious to my brain because I've been watching a lot of heavy stuff, right? Like Mr. and Mrs. Smith's a lot heavier. As far as like, you know, the tone and
the Iron Claw comes out this week on streaming, by the way.
Yeah, speaking of heavy, right?
If you want a downer.
Yeah, and then I've also been watching Hell of a Boss, based on recommendations from. It's a show that's from the same people who did Has Been Hotel, which is on Amazon Prime. Hell of a Boss is on YouTube. I ended up binging those 2 seasons over the last 2 weeks with my wife, and that one's raunchy, but it's heavy also. Like it's a raunch comedy, but it's also got like a lot of really heavy themes, and it was just a lot. Like it was between that and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I was just like feeling a little overwhelmed with like the drama. And so I just let Tacoma FD play for a minute, and I was like, yeah, this is right.
I don't want to watch Has Been Hotel. It just feels like Harley Quinn for theater kids.
I will agree that it's probably for theater kids in that I know what you mean by that. I love the show. I'm not a theater kid, but I don't agree that it's Harley Quinn. I think that's a very superficial way of looking at the show. Do you know what the show's about?
Yes.
You do?
I do know what the show's about.
Okay. Do you want to tell people what it's about?
You're gonna quiz me there? I don't.
No, well, I mean, for anybody who's interested, it's a very it's a very more I guess it's a skewed perspective of the biblical tale of Lucifer and Adam and Eve and stuff. And basically, Lucifer, it really is that fallen angel who basically just pissed off God for giving Eve the apple and ruining everything by giving humans wisdom, and knowledge. And so because of that, he's cast to hell. He ends up falling in love with Lilith. They have a baby, and then that kid grows up to become Charlie, who is the star of the show. And she truly believes, like, it's really interesting. There's a lot of really nice, hopeful, optimistic characters in hell that she's surrounded. Like, she's the center of it. And she believes, honestly, that there must be something more than just being tortured forever in hell. So she sets up a rehabilitation program to see if she can rehabilitate the lost souls of hell to make their way to heaven. And it's really cool because it frames heaven as like the bad guys, like they're like the angels are real dicks and stuff, and like it's really funny, and it's really, and the best part is it's a musical. But if you don't like musicals, like I wouldn't recommend Has Been. But we found out that through Frank, that our old co-host, that Hell of a Boss is like a spin-off show of this. That is weird because this show just came out this year, but technically the pilot was made 4 years ago. So since the pilot and now, there has been 2 seasons of another show called Hell of a Boss, which is, you might like that more. That one's
a YouTube show.
It's a YouTube show, but it's the same animation style.
Not a real show.
It's a real show, but the premise is a lot funnier. It's just these imps who have a special access to a book that lets them go to the mortal world, to Earth, and so they use it. They form like an agency where they just conduct hits on people that people in hell are like bitter about. Like, hey, this guy screwed me and left me in hell. Like, go kill him for me. And so like, all right, cool. And so it gets a lot more complicated than that, but it's pretty fun. It's a fun show. But if you don't like musicals and raunch and violence and stuff, stay away from both shows. Not worth it.
Yeah. Stay away from both shows.
If you don't like those things.
Damn, if you don't like those things, but you shouldn't stay away from our show if you like these things. Oh man, where do you want to start? We had the Deadpool 2 trailer drop during the big game as they call it. Thoughts, comments, concerns. What'd you think?
You know what I loved about that trailer, like more than anything? I'll give you one guess if you can guess what it is, because remember, I don't go out of my way to spoil things the way you do. So I didn't know anything going in.
Stuff in that trailer is a spoiler. Is it Pyro? Is it Pyro in there?
I didn't see Pyro.
Oh, he's in that trailer. So,
okay.
So sorry.
Was he the old one that that said I love this part? Oh, I couldn't recognize him. Like I didn't. He looked like he was somebody I was supposed to recognize, but he
hasn't acted since.
Oh, poor guy. No, it wasn't that. So what I loved about the Deadpool trailer is that the TVA is a huge part of it. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that going in. And like I talked to Frank about this, and he was also surprised too. And so what I loved about the trailer is that it was able to surprise me. You know what I mean? It gave me something that I didn't expect. And you know what was even funnier is I'm the fool for not expecting it, because that's what the TVA was set up for. Loki was established to open the floodgates to all of this, right? Like that was the entire purpose of that show. And so it makes perfect sense that the TVA would be the ones to usher in Deadpool from another universe into the MCU. So no, props to them. Like I loved it. The aesthetic of the TVA looked on point. Like everything looked like I needed it to be. I would have loved to seen Eugene Cordero in that trailer.
I'd love to see a Morbius in that trailer.
Morbius? You want to see a Morbius? Oh, you mean Mobius?
Or Mobius? Sorry.
Okay, no,
bring Morbius in there too.
I'm okay with no Mobius because like I kind of got the implication that he's kind of like retiring, like or he may be trying to not be part of, it's fine. I don't need him, but I would have liked one of the supporting characters, so we can agree on that. You know what I mean? Like it was weird to see new TVA people that we don't recognize and know, but but yeah, no, I just love that, and I didn't love that we're teasing the Wolverine when the title of the movie is Deadpool and Wolverine. But that's fine. We'll get another trailer later, and I'm just happy because it looks like it will be a Deadpool movie. I have questions like why is Shatterstar alive? But it's okay.
Deadpool 2 post credits, bro.
Shatterstar wasn't alive in the post. Oh, I see what you're saying. He time traveled and fixed everything.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Fair enough. What did you think of it? Did you love it?
It's a good trailer. I'm with you on the TVA showing up. It's nice to, you have this nebulous all seeing thing, right? Exists in your universe, but it only exists in this very specific slice. It's nice to see that door crack open. I don't love the Deadpool humor.
I know you don't.
As much as I think some. But I think that's just more of my disdain towards Ryan Reynolds. Choice of I think he's funny. I just don't think he's like funny as Deadpool. It's one of those things where, for me, the jokes are, I guess, 50-50 hit or miss, right?
How was the pegging joke?
I think it's fine. It's fine.
For me, it's the look into the camera. That's the beauty of that joke. Like the wink. It's like the wink, because like that's his thing. That's Deadpool's thing. He's always winking at you directly, so yeah. I'm sorry.
But if you're doing the story that we're going to, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I knew you weren't gonna love the trailer, but I'm glad you at least liked it. But what were you gonna say?
If they're doing the story that it seems like they're going to do of Deadpool getting recruited in the TVA, right? I want my dream is for them to crack that can open and show all of the dumb variants and what ifs of past movies and present that they can. So
I want to do Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, because it's for me, it's not enough to show me the things. I want to see significant things done to them, so like I want him to kill them all. Like,
no, sure, you can kill them all.
Just kill them all, like kill Ben Affleck Daredevil, kill Elektra, kill them all, kill them all. But if I want this movie to earn its rated R, earn it, really, really earn it. I will never get the image of the first movie out of my head when the slow motion thing finally goes real time and it ends with a guy's body splattering against the giant sign up on the freeway, and then that slushes down to the ground. I need that level of gore. I need all the gore.
It should earn its R through violence, not through language.
It should earn its R through both. Through both. It needs both. Yeah. Go back and watch the old Deadpools. Are you gonna segue now?
I was gonna segue into something needing both, but I think
you don't need to segue. Just do the next news.
We got another trailer, X-Men 97. That came out actually today. X-Men 97 from Marvel. Now Marvel Animation is what they're calling it.
Nice. Okay.
To me it looks a little weird in motion. It's almost like they're CG, and I don't know. I don't want to say I hate it, because I have no source of love for the original X-Men animated cartoon. But when I compare them side by side, and this is supposed to be the continuation of the thing, it looks a little different.
See, I invalidate that because you don't know how bad the last season of that show looked when they outsourced their animation to an animation studio in South America, and it just completely looked like garbage, just terrible. So for me, and then on top of that, the other thing that always was really frustrating to fans of the show is in the credits in the end for a couple seasons, they would show you this badass animation from the anime version of the show. I guess in Japan they had their own title sequence, and so they would show you the anime version, which was way better than the show that you were watching, and likewise the intro to the show was always way better. So I'm just used to the X-Men cartoon having multiple animation styles, so I don't mind them updating it for the now. You know what I mean? I still recognize the characters and I still hear the characters, so I'm cool with them getting an update for the visuals, because I've seen way more than the trailer has shown, because I saw a bunch of it at Comic-Con, and it was enough to make me cry. So I'm excited. I'm very excited. But I get your point. It looks different. I knew that when I saw it at Comic-Con.
I mean, it is not for me. I don't have any skin in that game, so I'm not gonna
that's fine.
rag on something I inherently just don't care about.
I will say the trailer confuses me and makes me want to go back and rewatch the show a little bit, because it suggests that Professor X died, and this is them moving on from that. I could have sworn in the cartoon Professor X was dying, so because of that, Lilandra of the Shi'ar took him to the Shi'ar Empire so that she could treat him for his condition, that because they couldn't do it on Earth. I mean, he's still, the end result's the same, right? He's gone, but like it felt like they were mourning his death rather than like mourning it, or grieving his absence.
Could be like a Captain America in the MCU right now. He's not. Is
fair
he
enough.
dead? Is he not dead? He's just not
fair
here.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
you won't have to wait long to find out.
Point.
You won't have to wait long to find out. Right? Out March 30th, right?
20th, I think.
March 20th. I think you're getting confused with part 2 of Invincible, which is, we're not going to talk about that too much here, but that second season.
I haven't seen anything for Invincible.
Second half of season 2 trailer came out today. But really? The last big of MCU news, the best part of my week. Yesterday we got our first look at
why was that the best part of your week?
I loved it.
I am not confused. I am correct. It is March 20th. X-Men 97 comes out on March 20th.
Dennis is right.
Yeah.
But
I just watched
I absolutely love this Fantastic Four announcement. So we got our official casting. We got is it Ebon? Is it Bach?
Moss Bachrach, I think.
Bachrach. Guy from the Bear, uncle from the Bear, cousin from the Bear, sorry, is going to be the Thing.
Yeah.
Eddie Munson, who I can never remember his name either, will be Johnny Storm.
Yeah, I feel like, what are you excited about here? Like, what? Like, this is the cast that's been rumored for a couple months.
Yeah,
now.
But it's official. We get them. We get a look at their costumes, and it's presumably going to be set in the 60s if you go by what they're wearing in the magazine that the Thing is reading, which, as I think I've said multiple times in the show, if I were to want my pie in the sky for the Fantastic Four, would it, or for it to be a period piece. So I got my wish, and we got Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic. What more could I ask for?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not really inferring anything from this, but sure, maybe you got your wish. I don't know, but like, I'm weirded out by the notion that the Fantastic Four existed in the 60s, and we're only now hearing about it. Like, that's kind of weird. So hopefully they're from another universe. Because we did a what if episode
existed in the 90s.
We did a what if episode where all of the existing people of the that could be Avengers came together, and there's no mention of this, so like, if Captain Marvel is your example, or your proof, like your exception to the rule, she's the exception. Like, you don't do that over and over again. You can't keep going back to that well. So I'm hoping it's not from the 60s. I'm hoping they're just showing you an AI.
You want to do that? We didn't learn about Yelena for a minute. We didn't. A lot of people, they could exist. Also, you're comparing it to a what if universe. That is the name itself is a what if universe. What if they didn't exist in the universe?
Yeah, no, I know, but fair enough. My example is just as bad as your example. Yelena, we knew she had sisters. We knew there were other Black Widows. That's not a surprise. Like, I'm not even sure they're actual biological sisters either.
No,
like, yeah, no. they're just
family.
Kindred. Yeah, forced family.
We also saw a universe where the Fantastic Four existing in a pseudo futuristic time in Multiverse of Madness.
Yes. This is not the first Fantastic Four we're getting. So, yeah, I'm excited that Pedro's in the movie. I think he'll be great. I am excited that Eben is playing the Thing because I love him in Bear, and I also
Those
loved
blue
him
eyes are going to put in some work.
I loved him in Andor. Also, he was really good in Andor. Yeah, so I'm excited for them. The other two, I couldn't care less about. I really couldn't. So I hope that they prove to be worthy of the parts.
One is invisible and the other one's on fire half the time. So
no, one is the glue of that entire team, and then there's the other one's on fire.
She was fine in Hobbs and Shaw.
I don't remember her in Hobbs and Shaw.
In MI6, MI7.
She's there. She's in the movie.
That's the only other movie I know her from.
I'm saying she's the glue of the Fantastic Four. So I'm.
Would she make a good? No pressure. Would you want to watch an affair with her and Namor?
Sure, that'd be hot.
Yeah, there you go. That's what
I don't.
That's the bar.
But no, that's not the bar. That's your bar. That's not the bar.
Hey, that's a comics bar.
No, it's not. It's not. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm excited. It was like a 1-2-3 punch for Marvel though. Like they hit us with
it's almost as if Marvel Studios was trying to. It's also they were trying to wipe out some news first from other news this week.
Oh yeah, like what? Like what news?
Like Madam Web came out on Wednesday.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, they were trying, but I don't think they succeeded at completely misdirecting. But if you want to talk about that, we can talk about that.
Well, we got to talk about this first. It's your little nuggets. We got some Marvel Legends announcements.
These are reissues.
Yeah, but they're getting carded, right?
No, he's been carded before.
Reissues with new boxes.
Not a new box.
80 years.
The 80 years is new. Yes.
Oh yeah. Okay, so it's the 80-year
logo. The 80-year logo on the boxes is new. The rest of the package is not new. It's the same. Yeah, 2 Marvel Legends, I guess, to celebrate Deadpool. They're doing a Deadpool Corp box set that was the one with the scooter and the dog pool and squirrel pool and Deadpool. It's cool. And then the other one is the Uncanny X-Men Deadpool, or whatever you call it, the Ultimate Deadpool. It's basically like supposed to be like what he originally looked like when Rob Liefeld drew him, but except his feet work and look good. But yeah, both figures have been released over the past few years. I think they're just giving people a chance to catch them if they missed them the first time around. So yeah, those went out. There was a surprise announcement. I'm like, cool, whatever. Anyways, but yes, I promise you, I have more enthusiasm for the thing we're about to talk about. But I wasn't sure if you were going to bring those Marvel Legends into the conversation because they're not new. But there you go. We did it.
Well, yeah, cool, whatever. Let's move on. Is it Xander who says that? Is that his name in that show? The murder show. I told the murder show on Apple TV with the different genres.
Oh, the After Party?
Yes, After Party. I totally forgot what it was. That's the song. Yeah, cool, whatever is what they sing it.
Something like that. Yeah. Okay. It's been a while. I haven't watched that show in a while.
Madam Web, the latest installment of the Sony.
I think they renamed it the Sony Spider-Man universe.
Sony Spider-Man universe.
So it's SSU now is what is the acronym for it, because the previous one was disgusting looking. Yes. By the way, before we get into it, spoiler warning. I know you guys. We gave you a whole day to go watch this movie, so we understand if you want to go. Watch this movie and come back. We totally understand. If you don't care to watch the movie because the Rotten Tomato score is so bad, we understand, and we're here to help guide you through this movie. I want to try. It's been a while since we've done like a new movie or new something. We're gonna try and be as comprehensive as we can, but without ruining everything, I guess. But we're gonna ruin a lot. Okay, we're gonna ruin a lot. We're gonna try and fit it in.
Madam Web came out yesterday, February 14th. Man, where do we begin? It movie stars Dakota Johnson as Cassandra Cassie Webb, a paramedic in New York City. Gosh, she has a life-altering accident that leads her down a path of destiny.
I think, yeah, it shows her that she's connected to the web of fate, right? I think is what it. Yeah, the web of destiny, something like that. There's a giant web she's connected to in her. She has a near-death experience, basically, right? Near-death experience that causes her to see some trippy web stuff, and then after that, she can see the future, right?
Pretty much, yeah. She's clairvoyant. Is it clairvoyant, right?
Clairvoyant is the correct term, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We can get more into the story in a minute, but like I'm just curious, like just taking the temperature here. You knew what this movie was rated going into it. How did you feel about it? How did you feel?
Like in terms of like the cinema score review
stuff? How did you feel about the movie going in, and then how did you feel coming out?
I knew it was a Sony comic book movie. And I came out of it going like, yep, that's a Sony comic book movie. But again, low you can't be disappointed if your expectations are so low.
Yeah.
And I mean it's fine. It's fine. Like the movie's like it's not the greatest piece of cinema, but if it's on and I'm on a plane, yeah, sure. So I'll watch it again.
Okay. So let me give my 2 cents because it's interesting. It's interesting. I think Madam Web is a fun, cheesy horror movie that you can laugh at. I do not think Madam Web is a good Madam Web movie. I think if the name of this movie wasn't Madam Web, I would love it so much more.
It almost goes into Catwoman territory because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like you just change like 3 lines of dialogue, and this is like not a Spider-Man movie at all.
Well, not just that though. Like the problem is like her story is so far off from what the character is in like. So I'm used to this. Just here's a little tangent of mine. I'm used to this. Hollywood doesn't like to do stories about people in wheelchairs. If they gotta have wheelchairs in them, they find a way to keep them out of the wheelchair for like 95% of the movie. And so I saw the trailers for Madam Web for the last year, and I was like, that don't look like no Madam Web I know, because Madam Web in the comics is a straight up blind wheelchair user. And so it was weird to me, but I'm like, cool, whatever. I'll watch it because Ricky's gonna make me watch it and stuff, but yeah, it as a wheelchair user, it was offensive to me to watch her just be doing all of these non-wheelchair things. And then it becomes like the problem I have with it is the same problem I kind of have with X-Men First Class, where the movie becomes not just an origin story about her abilities, it becomes an origin story about her disabilities. And that's weird to me that it has to be both. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's so much cooler that a disabled person just gets superpowers. You know what I mean? Like, why do they all have to be entwined together? It's kind of like how Professor X, whenever he, like, for some reason in those movies, whenever he can't walk, he has his powers, and vice versa, right? Like, and it's like, stop it.
Yeah. Well, I see what you mean. Like, for obviously other things happen, but like in Wakanda Forever, right? Black Panther gets sick and dies. And just minus the Chadwick Boseman thing, that's kind of, it's like, that's heavy on its own, because like it's just a thing that can happen to anyone, right?
It can always
Superpowered
happen.
or
Yeah.
not. Yeah, it can always.
Yeah.
So I see your point of like, why are they one and the same, right?
Yeah, like you get where I'm following or I'm going
Yeah.
with this? Like,
Yeah.
so that's just my personal bias, like that's me as a wheelchair user who just wants to see people represented like the way they are. Like, I just want to give you a fun fact about her, just so you know. Do you know how she got her powers in the comics?
She just gets old and dies.
She was born with them, the
Oh.
same way she was born with her disability. She was born with, I believe it's that actual disease that they mention in the movie, that Mysanthia Garris, I think is the name of the disease. Hold on a second. What I'm myasthenia gravis is the condition. That it is a degenerative disease, neuromuscular junction disease that leads to varying degrees of skeletal muscle weakness.
Oh yeah, they do mention that.
And blindness. Yes. Yes. And so they actually mention that when the mother is pregnant with her,
yes.
she's tested positive for this condition. And so that's kind of the whole premise of this movie, is the mother is off on a quest to find a mythical spider that has, special peptides in its bite to like cure her of this. And she is cured before she's ever born, right? But then what happens is the rest of the movie becomes well, she has to end up blind and in a wheelchair eventually, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Like, when they had the out in the first place, which is just let her be born blind and in a wheelchair.
Hint at it a little. They hint at the blindness a little bit, but the chair thing kind of comes out of nowhere. But as a wheelchair user, I know you were scoping out her rig at the end.
I was, and I was very annoyed with the fact that it had no joystick, and sometimes she's driving it.
I was like,
she's driving it, and it has no controls at all on it. Somebody
you
was
just got a new
piloting it.
You got a new cosplay, man.
And it's 2003, like so. All right, so let's back this up now that I've gotten my that's one of my biggest gripes, is right. Like, I just like the character is just born that way in both respects. She's born disabled. She's born a mutant, right? And that's it. And that's how Stan Lee did it, right? Like the easiest thing.
I didn't know she was a mutant.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like Stan Lee, when he created the term mutant, it was his final like catch-all for everything he created afterwards, right? He's like, oh, they can just be born this way and it's fine. And it saves us the trouble of having to learn some drawn out origin. It can just be about what's their life like, what's the struggles that they go through. And I think that's a beautiful thing, because like it's more reality, right? Like, we don't have origin stories in our normal everyday lives, right? We just have,
you just are.
We just are. And so that aside, I can enjoy the entertainment that this movie was trying to give me, right? Like and so this movie is showing you, like I said before, it starts with like in Peru in the 1970s, and it's this researcher who's Cassie. We find out is Cassie's mom, is exploring, the Amazon or wherever part of the South America they're messing around with in the jungles, and she's looking for a special spider that is supposed to give like super cool abilities. And the natives have even mentioned that there's a special spider people, las arañas, that like climb in the trees and behave like spiders and all these things. And she's like, I don't believe in those things. I just believe in science. She tells her bodyguard that she's hired, Mr. Ezekiel Sims. And eventually, like, that scene goes on way too long, and then she finds the spider while Ezekiel is back at camp, like stealing all the notes that she has. And then when he sees the spider, he basically shoots her and steals the spider, right? And because that's all he wanted. He just wanted all these powers for himself. And so then Las Arañas show up and they take the mom to the secret, pool of water, and they help her give birth to this baby. And to give her the strength, they let her be bitten by the spider, not the baby, the mother, while the baby's still inside. And so surprisingly, this baby is born, a little different, I guess, but she's also born without a mother. And so she ends up, we fast forward to 2003. She's grown up, played by Dakota Johnson, and she's an EMT. And it's interesting. I think there's a lot of nuance to what they show you as her life as an EMT. Her partner is Ben Parker, aka Uncle Ben. And you get to see on their badges, the skyline of New York City with the two towers. And this is 2003. So what I inferred from that is like, wow, this is interesting. This is an interesting time because these are people who have chosen to do this job after 9/11 in New York, right? And so like whether or not you bother to think about, like, it's there, it's present in the minds of these people. And I thought that was really cool because they did a great job of what I always ask for, right? In a horror, in any superhero story, show me the character being heroic. And man, they went all in on that, right?
I'll answer me this. While I'm watching this movie, right? I think it's easy to shit and dunk on these movies, Morbius being the last one and Venom by a certain extent. But we kind of knew what we're getting into going to this movie.
I didn't quite know what I was getting to.
At no point in this movie I felt like a jump the shark moment. Like I was on board the train the whole time. I don't think it the destination is not where I maybe want to go, but it didn't fall off the tracks for me at any point. Because I was kind of down with the spider people.
I was gonna get to the jump the shark in a moment, honestly. Like there was a moment for me.
No.
So eventually, while she's saving all these people and doing heroic things, there's an accident. She dies for about 3 minutes. Ben resuscitates her, but in that time, she sees crazy webs, and then she starts seeing the future, right? And then it takes her like 4 times before she finally starts really doing anything about the future she sees. But what I thought was the jump the shark moment is when, so eventually the movie introduces you to these other 3 teenage girls that are all different spider characters in the comics. Maddie Franklin, Anya Corazon, and who was the other one? Julia Cornwall. Julia Cornwall. And so these 3 characters are all eventually spider people in the comic books, and somehow like they're all like passing by in her life throughout her day, like they are all somehow connected to Madam Web, right? Or Cassie. And so what ends up happening is she has a vision that these people are about to be killed on the subway that she's on. She sees them all horrifically die, right? And then it finally clicks in her head, right? She's like, wait, I can do something about this, right? So she gets them and they run off the train, and then you see like this scary guy like that really desperately wants to kill them. And then for the rest of the movie, it becomes a chase movie, right? Where like this crazy
cat and mouse game,
this crazy Spider-Man monster guy, what they call him, ceiling guy, for a while, because he dresses up in his own Spider-Man outfit and crawls on the ceilings like a spider. They say that, when she hears that, it triggers something in her. She's like, hey, wait, I got to leave you here in the forest for a little bit. I'll be back. I'm going to go home. Right? She basically kidnapped these 3 teenage girls. I know she's saved their lives, but she's like, I'll be back. Right? And she goes home, goes through her closet, pulls out this journal that is given to her like from the foster people or whatever as her belongings, which we saw earlier in the movie. She likes to flip through it the way Dakota Johnson flips through Marvel comics when they're handed to her in interviews. Not really reading anything, just kind of flipping through them, right? But so this time she goes home and she actually reads the journal because she remembers when she flipped through it, she saw pictures of spiders, you know what I mean? And she's like, that can't be a coincidence. And for me, that was the make or break moment for this movie where it's like, oh my God, woman, you're clearly longing for the life you could have had with a mother. And you're telling me this entire time you've had this book and you've never actually read the contents of it until now, when you're abandoning some teenagers in the woods to go home and read it. And
that could be painful.
You know what, Ricky? Don't justify it, okay? She's kind of a monster. Like, she's kind of a monster for never bothering to take the time to read the stuff her mom wrote. You know what I mean? Like if I feel like every kid ever, like when they lose a parent, would love to magically discover some secret writings or of wisdom or whatever, anything that their parents left behind. And she's had it in her closet this whole time and never bothers to read it until some teenage girl's like, yeah, that guy was crawling like a spider. And it's like, oh, okay. Now, that aside, I put that in a little box.
Yep.
I locked the key and I said, all right, let's see where the rest of this movie goes. And I had fun. But for me, that's the jump the shark moment. Like it hurt.
If I had to pick a moment, because I was on board the whole time, it would probably be the second time she dips out.
Yeah, no, that's
back to fucking Peru.
That one's pretty rough too, right?
And then she meets the dude, the spider shaman, and he's just like in normal clothes.
Yeah, that one's pretty rough too. Okay, yeah.
He's just a normal dude. Because the spider people were cool. That was cool. Was that not? Tell me that wasn't cool. Like the OG Amazonian Spider-Man painted in red with like branches as webs. That was kind of cool.
I didn't hate it, and I saw what they were doing. Like they were like, so let me get nerdy again, and I'm gonna rewind back to the other part of the movie that is atrocious to me, which is Ezekiel Sims. So Ezekiel Sims is played by who plays him in this movie? I'm trying to remember how to pronounce his name. He is played by Tahar Rahim, a French actor who I've never heard of before. I feel so bad for this poor man because you know what I'm going to say, right? Like for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because his accent was too heavy when they filmed, or maybe there was sound.
He speaks very little lines in this movie. Not to say he doesn't. There's not dialogue, but multiple times on screen, this man is dubbed. The voice is there, and he's dubbed over. Like it's obvious.
He is so dubbed, and the dubbing is so bad because it just sounds like somebody is reading with no tone at all, like just reading script to try to fit it in the space of the mouth being moved. It's bad. Like he's so bad. Like I kept leaning over to Ian and being like, this is bad, right? And he's like, it's very bad. It's very bad. Like to the point where he actually made Dakota Johnson look like a decent actor. And I thought she was pretty much shitting the bed for a lot of that movie too. But she saved it in certain scenes, you know, that just, but yes, Ezekiel is just so terrible. But that said, I do know Ezekiel, the character, pretty well. And it's because they introduced him at a time when I was heavily reading Spider-Man comics. And his story is kind of intertwined with this mystical spider totem kind of story.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite Las Arañas, but I was willing to let them reinterpret a little bit because I see, like, hey, the net positive result was cool, right? You as a Latin person thought that was cool to see OG Latin spider people. Yeah. So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it, and I understand, like, that's the idea, right? Like, so in the comics, Ezekiel is a very shocking, jarring character because he shows up while Peter Parker is way in his 30s, and he's like, and the other weird thing about this guy is he actually looks like Uncle Ben, like, which weirds Peter out. Like, he kind of looks like Uncle Ben. I thought they were kind of trying to make Ezekiel look kind of like Adam Scott in this movie a little bit. They have very similar facial hair and stuff like that. So I think they were trying to do that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Ezekiel's story in the comics is meant to establish that basically Peter Parker, everything he thought about his life this whole time is not necessarily all all there is to it. That spider, that radioactive spider that bit him on that fateful day, it actually was fateful in that there is a web of destiny, and there is a spider god that is in charge of choosing who inherits the totem of the spider. It's a very convoluted thing that made a lot of Spider-Man fans very upset. And so I see why they chose to just use Ezekiel in this Madam Web movie, where it doesn't have to, like, it. If it fails, they never actually have to connect it to Spider-Man, right? Like, they never have to.
Yeah.
So, like, they tossed him to the wolves for this movie. He's a throwaway character. He does say a lot of stupid shit, and honestly, like, his employee, that woman who is on board to be his cyber security expert, even after she finds out that his whole goal is to kill 3 young girls that he sees every night in a dream killing him. When she finds out it's 3 teenage girls, she's like, well, I really need this rent check. You know what I mean? Like, that was weird to me. It was weird. Now, that aside, the chase, the cat and mouse stuff, it's fun. It's fun when Madam Web starts learning her powers and starts seeing the future only a few minutes ahead and using that to, like, outsmart this guy that's got, like, all the superpowers ever, like, it's cool. And I appreciated it. And it actually reminded me of, like, an old Hitchcock movie where, like, clairvoyance used to be enough to carry a movie. You know what I mean? Like, but now in the Marvel age of movies, like, everybody's got to have like 15 different powers and stuff like that. So clairvoyance is a badass ability. And so I actually, on paper, I appreciate that we got a movie where a lady with just the slightest bit of clairvoyance is trying to save a bunch of girls from basically an axe murderer, And so, like, if you look at the movie from that lens, it's fun. If you look at it as a story that's supposed to prop up the Spider-Man universe and the characters inside of it, it is garbage. It is trash. Like that, and that's
100%. 100%. Like, again, you take out. I don't even think you need to take out Ben Parker. You just take out his sister-in-law, right?
The sister-in-law, the poor woman.
Yeah, you just take her out and insert another pregnant woman. You no longer have this Spider-Man baggage for this movie. It's just a TNT weekday movie. What
would have been kind of cooler is if she was May Parker and you find out that they had a kid and they lost it, and that's what made them always kind of want to be parents, and one day they will adopt Peter after his parents die. You know what I mean? Just something not so, like, literal, like, on the nose. Like, it's like, oh, what should I name the baby? I don't know. What about Peter? Like, it's.
Well, I didn't say that. The balloon popped, remember?
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. As me in the audience, I'm like, you guys are so coy with this. It's so dumb. Like, we all know what you're doing. Like, so I felt like the Spider-Man parts of it were just the most heavy-handed parts of the movie.
And like, either do that or just make it a fucking Garfield prequel.
Yeah.
Like, just do it. Like,
also, by the way, Ezekiel in the comics does not wear a costume. He's just
in a suit and barefoot.
He's just barefoot walking around.
Yeah.
So I actually really like that scene in the movie where you see him walking around in a suit barefoot. I was like, that's Ezekiel, like that's what he does, but he's also not like the villain of the Spider-Man universe either. So that was kind of, it was a little jarring. I also am very confused by the ending when she's like, they were never your future. I was. I'm like, well, okay, I guess.
You just kidnapped some kids, man.
I know. I was a little thrown off, but I do appreciate that they didn't shoehorn in the origins of those 3 girls, because I was afraid they were going to do it. I was like, please, that's a lot. And
I don't know if I love like the Gotham TV show style of like they just kind of, there's Batman's here. I don't know if I like that, but
yeah.
I agree with you where
it would have been too much of a movie.
It would have been too much. Yeah, it's a different movie at that point.
Yeah. They looked stupid in their costumes, but at the same time, they also look 100% accurate. So I'm like very conflicted because I'm like, those are really accurate costumes, but you look stupid. Also, Sydney Sweeney's wig is terrible. That is just the entire costuming that went into Sydney Sweeney. That poor girl, she just looked terrible through that whole movie.
We're going to be seeing a lot of Anya in the next couple of years. She's Dina in The Last of Us Part 2, Season 2.
Oh, the actress, you mean?
The actress. And then she's Hawk Girl.
Hawk Girl. Okay.
In Superman.
Yeah. I actually liked her and Sydney Sweeney. I didn't like the girl who played Maddie. I was having a weird problem with like the 2003-ness of the movie because I know 2003 so well. And I was like not feeling the vibe that Maddie was giving. I was like, did you even research what it would be like to live in this time? Like she just felt disingenuous to me, like as far as the acting was going. But that's a nitpick, like they weren't the crux of the movie. It was all on Dakota Johnson, who just totally nailed it at the end, sitting in her wheelchair saying stupid shit. Like, there was a point in the movie where Ian and I, we leaned over and I was like, I'm actually kind of enjoying this movie, which is weird because based on the reviews. So I'm like, this means this movie has to shit the bed at the end, right? Like it has to, right? And so he's like, oh yeah, it's got to. And I only thought the last minute of the movie was really terrible. Like it was bad.
The chair.
The chair was so bad. It was terrible, right? You knew I was gonna hate on the chair though, right?
It's a cool chair. I'm not gonna diss anyone's
but you knew I was gonna hate on the
yes
yeah, you knew that.
I did love the glasses, the whole thing, and then at the end on the rooftop they put her in the costume, right? And sure,
oh, she looks bad.
Can she astral project in the comics? Yeah. Right?
Yeah. Okay. She's basically Spider-Man's Professor X. Mm-hmm. She can do a lot of the things Professor X does. Yeah. So, it is what it is. It's Madam Web. I would say, honestly, hey, just, I put the question out there on the thumbnail of this episode. I said, is it better than Morbius? And you know what? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's a more complete movie than Morbius. It doesn't. I think you get Jared Leto. You're swinging for some type of prestige, right?
I don't think it's going to sequel.
No, I don't think. No, Madam Web's not going to sequel. But I think it knew its lane. It stayed in its lane. I don't think it tried to be anything more that it did. It's not. It's a throwback to those 2000s superhero movies, right?
I saw Dakota Johnson get asked a question the other day, which was like, hey, so how different was the movie from the script you received? And she said, so different, but I'm not allowed to say what parts are different. And yeah, I believe her. I
probably believe her too.
All right. We're gonna probably have to wrap this up. Mm-hmm. I think it's on you to pick the next movie or whatever it is we watch, but you don't have to do that tonight. So we can just say thanks to everybody for tuning in, and you finish this up for us.
Thank you for tuning in. Thanks to some of the new people while watching us. We love if you would throw us a like, follow, or maybe subscribe. And with that, new true believers, enough said.